Hi everybody, and welcome to Everyday Manna. Today we are going to be making some very quick and easy dinner ideas for you to have anytime you want, any day of the week. These are perfect make-ahead dishes that you could make and put in your freezer. Take them out the night before and thaw them, and then just pop them in the oven when you get home and you've got dinner done. The first thing we're going to do is I'm going to take about 4 cups of just frozen shredded hash browns. Of course, you can make your own with your potatoes if you want, but for convenience sake, I'm just going to use the pre-shredded frozen ones that have thawed a little bit. I've got just a baking dish here. I'm going to add a little bit of vegetable oil or canola oil if you want. And I'm going to add a little tiny bit of salt and pepper. Forgot where I put it. A little bit of salt and a little bit of pepper. We're going to stir that together. And then I'm going to pop this in the oven and bake it. This is going to be the crust of our casserole. So just take your fingers and press that down. Pop it in a 400-degree oven for about 15 minutes while you're working on the stuffing. So let's pop that in the oven. Let that bake for just about 15 minutes or so. Now, to make the filling for the dish, I have here 1 pound of ground beef that I've already browned and drained. I'm going to add just 1 bag of frozen mixed vegetables. Any kind you like is fine. A little bit of salt, pepper. If you want to add some minced onion or something, you can. I just added salt, pepper, and a little bit of garlic powder just to give it some flavor. Turn that down just a little bit here. Now, in this bowl or cup, I have just a cup of water, and I'm going to use one of the instant gravy mixes, just a brown gravy. Going to add this to my cup of water and whisk that together and add it to my beef. I'm also going to add some cheddar cheese. Stir that together, and that's going to be our filling once our crust comes out of the oven. You can turn that off. And we're just going to wait on our crust. Now, that's finished to that stage. Let me get rid of this stuff. And we're going to move on to the side dish that we have. I have here 1 package of just frozen broccoli. My store did not have the chopped broccoli, the finely chopped broccoli. So I just got the regular, cut broccoli. And I just took my knife and, cut it to a little bit smaller pieces. I just did not want the big chunks. I've got 1 egg. I have some salt and some pepper, a little bit of onion powder. You could add some instant minced onion if you wanted, or some, the dehydrated onion. Whatever you want to put in there is fine. I've got 1 can of cream corn that I'm going to add to my broccoli. Couldn't be simpler. This is a very comforting dish. I have here a couple of tablespoons of butter that I need to melt. Let me put that on about, there we go, that's good. Let's beat the egg. I'll just use this whisk, it's fine. I do like to beat the egg up a little bit before I put it in there. Stir that together. Whoop, I hear the butter. Okay, just stir it together. And I have here just an 8 by 8 inch pan. Oh, that garlic powder just smells so good. You could also add in, any kind of a frozen vegetable that you like. If you wanted to add some carrots to that, it would be delicious, like the little frozen peas and carrots would be good. Whatever you like. Let's get our butter. Not melted enough. Let's go 20 more seconds. Now, you will need some kind of cracker. Whatever you like is fine. I'm just using the regular Ritz type crackers, whatever you want. You could use regular saltines. I don't know where my rolling pin is, so I'm just going to use my hand, and I'm making cracker crumbs. Great job for your kids. Take your crackers. If you didn't have any crackers, maybe you had breadcrumbs or panko, that would be fine. You could even use the French fried onions if you wanted to. But this is just going to make a crunchy little topping. You need to have your oven at 350. If you only have one oven, just put it in the oven with the potatoes at 400. That's fine. You don't have to wait and bake it separately. It's okay to do it at 400. Now, let's get our butter. Yeah, there we go. I'm going to drizzle this over top of the cracker crumbs. If you wanted to make it to this stage, you could, and then pop this in the freezer, and you've got dinner ready to go. So let's get this in our oven, our 350-degree oven. This needs to bake about 30 minutes. Quick and easy. I mean, what's better on a work day when you just need to have dinner already done? You could make that ahead, put it in the refrigerator, and then just bake it when you get home. It's just really, really simple, easy ideas. I'm going to clean up my mess, check on the potatoes in just a minute, and when I come back, we are going to make a low-carb, no-bake little cookie roll. Be back in just a minute. Alrighty, now, one thing I forgot to add to the beef mixture is some French fried onions. The little kind you get in the can at the grocery store. Well, they're kind of big, and I like them to be a little bit smaller. So I just put them in a baggie, found my meat mallet, and I'm just going to crush these up a little bit. I don't want them too fine, but I don't want them quite as big as they come in the canister. And I'm going to add about half a cup or so to the mixture, just a handful, and I'll save the rest for the top. That adds that oniony flavor. I have discovered those are truly one of the most versatile ingredients. I love to use those. Now I'm going to wash my hands, get the onion flavor off, and we're going to make a dish that has become one of our favorites, mine and my husband. My husband, Mike, loves the traditional no-bake cookies. Some people call them preacher cookies. They go by 1,000 different names. But he eats low carb, and I eat low carb most of the time. And, they have oatmeal in them, and oatmeal is not a low carb food. So I've just been kind of experimenting and trying some different things, and I've come up with a recipe that I truly believe I like better than the traditional no-bake cookies. Now, in this bowl, I have some smooth peanut butter. Now, you could use the crunchy peanut butter if you wanted. Now, your texture is going to be a lot firmer, but you could use the crunchy if that's what you like. I'm using the smooth, and I've got a couple of tablespoons of butter, and I'm just going to microwave this to loosen up the peanut butter and to kind of melt the butter, or at least get it really, really soft. So we're going to go about 30 seconds on that. And while that's doing its thing, in this bowl, I have about a cup of unsweetened coconut. Now, this is very important that you read your label, because in the baking aisle where you get the chocolate chips and the nuts and all of that stuff, you'll see bags of coconut, flaked coconut. Most of the time, that is sweetened coconut, and that's not what you want if you're making the low-carb version of this. Sometimes right beside the coconut, you will see unsweetened coconut, and then sometimes, you know, it might possibly be with the, in the section of your grocery store where they have the lower carb foods. It's generally with the other coconut, but you will need to double check your labels, because the regular flaked coconut that we've all used is sweetened, and that is not what you want for this recipe. So that is just regular unsweetened coconut. Now, at home the other day when I was making another batch of these, all I had was flaked coconut, unsweetened coconut. So if that's what you have at your home, what you need to do is just put the flakes in your food processor and just, you know, pulse it, I don't know, 3 or 4 times, and you will get, you know, probably a little smaller than this, but you'll get, the flakes will turn into like the chopped up broccoli, coconut, and that's what you want. Now, see how the peanut butter has softened where it's really workable, and the butter has melted. That's exactly what I want. So I'm going to add that. Oh, that peanut butter just smells so incredibly good. Kind of stir that together. You will need a baking sheet, and I like to line mine with parchment paper. You don't have to, but we're going to have to chill these. This is unsweetened cocoa powder, the kind that comes in the little can, usually on the top shelf of the grocery store by the baking powder and baking soda. Make sure that it is not sweetened. The overwhelming majority of them are unsweetened, but double check yours. You could use dark chocolate. You can use the regular cocoa powder. You can use Dutch process, whatever you like. Just make sure it doesn't have any sugar in it. You want, oh, it's powdery, a couple of teaspoons of that. That adds that chocolatey flavor. And I will advise you to double this recipe because it really is very, very good. Now, I have here just some pure vanilla. I don't know, a teaspoon, 2 teaspoons, as much as you like. I love the flavor of vanilla, so I add a lot. Now, this is an ingredient that you possibly might not have in your home. This is just the liquid. This is the liquid Splenda stevia. But you could use, if you don't have the liquid form of no-calorie sweetener, you can use the little packets or the little, granulated non-sugar substitute. You know what I'm saying? The Splenda, I'm not a big fan of the sweet and low or equal, but if that's what you have, you can use it. You want the equivalent of a couple of teaspoons because nothing in here has sugar added. So I like to do just, I don't know, a couple of squirts. That stuff is really, really sweet, so go easy on it. And then stir it together. If you find it's a little liquidy, which I think mine is, I'm going to add a little bit more coconut, if I can find my coconut here. Yeah, here it is. And here's my unsweetened coconut. If it's a little bit liquidy, just add a little more coconut. It's fine. There's no such thing in my world as too much coconut. That does not exist. This is a great, great little snack to have. That's perfect. You see how that mixture is firm? That's what we want. Now, You can make these any size you like. If you want them bigger, make them bigger. If you want them smaller, make them smaller. I like to use a little mini scoop. This is a little mini ice cream scoop. I use these for so many different things. This one is the number 40. You can just take your little scoop, and this way you get them all portioned out the same. Drop it on your parchment paper. If you don't have a scoop, you can use a spoon. Just take your spoon and drop them. Either way, it's fine. It really doesn't matter as long as you just get them, you know, portioned out. They are a little rich, so I would not make them too big. But these are good. They are really good. And if you are a diabetic or you just are eating low carb or keto and you want something desserty, a cookie type thing, but you know, you can't have the traditional cookies, I urge you to make this recipe. It really is delicious. Mike went crazy over them. He loves them. Matter of fact, I got to make some more for him at home. He's eaten them all. But when you get them on your tray, you will want to refrigerate them, and that peanut butter will firm back up, and they will become firmer. They're soft right now, obviously, because the peanut butter and the butter were melted. But you want to refrigerate them for about an hour, and then, or until they firm up. And then what I like to do is just take them and put them in some kind of a, you know, the refrigeratable container, the little lid attachment, like a Tupperware type thing, whatever you have will work. Or you can even put them in a baggie if you want. But they do need to be refrigerated and stay in the refrigerator until they're gone. And then you will come in one day and find the container empty on your counter. And I think that's probably a hint to make more. I think that's good. So we're just going to put these in the refrigerator. I'm going to check on the potatoes, and when I come back, we're going to finish up the casserole and pop it back in the oven. I'll be back in just a minute. Alrighty, now our potatoes have baked a little bit, and I'm just going to put this mixture. I'm a lefty, you'll have to forgive me. I have to do things backwards here. We're just going to scoop this out on top of the casserole. I'll tell you something else that would be very good in this, added to this part, is some sour cream that's hot, or some French onion dip would be delicious added in this. Whatever you like is fine. Okay. Now, we are going to take some additional cheddar cheese and sprinkle that over top, or you could use, you know, any kind of cheese you like. Not too much, just a little bit. And then the rest of our onions, the French fried onions. And we're going to put those on top, and that's going to be the topping. And then we're going to pop it back in the oven, let it bake for about 40 minutes. Now on the onions, you can either like dot some butter or drizzle a little bit of some kind of an oil. I'm just going to drizzle just probably total about maybe half a teaspoon of canola oil over top of that. This needs to go back in the oven and bake for about 45 minutes. I'm going to take a break, get this in the oven, When I come back, we're going to see how this looks when it's done. I'll be back in just a minute. Alrighty, to go alongside our dishes, I'm going to make something that my mama used to make all the time. It's a very economical, quick, and easy meal. Now, if you have your own home canned tomatoes, I would use a quart of those. We didn't have any here, so I just had a can of whole tomatoes, and I'm going to chop them. Now, I did put on an apron because these things can squirt juice on you in a heartbeat. You don't want them tiny, but you just want them in bite-sized pieces. I like to cut them. You can use your fingers and squish them if you want to. That works too. I love cooked tomatoes. I'm not a fan of raw tomatoes, oddly enough, but I love them cooked. And this is just a quick, easy side dish, scalloped tomatoes. If you have an onion, a little spring onion, a little green onion, scallion, something like that, feel free to add that. But I like them kind of just plain. My aunt, my mother's sister, used to make a soup out of this kind of thing, and she would add chopped up celery to hers and okra, and oh, it's so good. So you could add some celery and okra with your tomatoes. Let me put these in here. Using my little scooper, you want the juice too. Just chopping these up. If you have, already diced tomatoes, you won't have to do this step. But these were not. So let me get that skin off. Alrighty. This could not be simpler. Now, tomatoes can be very acidic. If they need some, if you don't like the acid flavor, I personally do. But you could add some sugar. If you wanted to add maybe a teaspoon of sugar, or the no carb sugar substitute, you could do that. Would be fine. You need some salt and pepper. Just a little bit. Stir that around. Take a package of crackers, whatever kind you got. Crunch them up. And then put them on top. If you have saltines, use those. If you have the cheesy flavored ones, they're good too. Whatever you want. Get your tomatoes, just stir all that in. Your salt and your pepper. You want the liquid. This is scalloped. Just sprinkle those over top. And then take some butter, a couple of tablespoons, however much you want, and then just dot the butter over top. That adds some richness, some flavor. I'm a huge fan of butter. I do not like margarine. I don't use margarine at all, but if that's what you have and you like it, you can use that in this recipe. I just like the flavor of butter. I've even started making my own out of heavy whipping cream at home. And that's it. All you got to do is put that in the oven at either the 350 or the 400, however, whatever you've got in the oven. It'll bake right alongside that for about 15 minutes, and you've got your dinner done. righty, now everything is done and out of the oven. This is our potato and beef bake. We've got the bottom layer is just frozen hash browns, and you can, of course, make your own if that's what you want to do. Just shredded with a little bit of oil and salt and pepper. Press those in the bottom, put them in a 400-degree oven for about 15 minutes. While that's baking, you want to brown some ground beef. Now, I added just a bag of frozen mixed vegetables, but you could add anything you wanted to that. Whatever kind of vegetables that you wanted to add them. It also is delicious if you wanted to put some, you know, in the dairy section, you buy the little tubs of dip, little French onion dip. Oh, it's really good on that. So you could do that. And then we topped it with some cheese and some of the French fried onions that we crushed up. Delicious. Great take to someone who you're taking a meal to. Great freezer meal. I wouldn't bake it. I would get it prepared, cover it with foil, pop it in your freezer, and then when you're ready to bake it, take it out the night before, let it thaw overnight in the refrigerator. When you're ready to bake it, 400 degrees, if it's semi-frozen, about an hour, and you've got dinner done. To go alongside that, we've got a broccoli and corn bake. That's just some frozen chopped broccoli, a can of corn. We mixed that together with some seasonings and topped it with just some cracker crumbs. Then we made just an easy, quick scalloped tomato. I just used a can of whole tomatoes that I chopped. If you've got home canned tomatoes, certainly would use those. And then just some salt and pepper, crushed up crackers and dotted it with a little butter. If you want to add some onion to that, minced onion, it's delicious. With that, it's delicious without it. If you don't really like the sharpness of tomatoes, they can be a little acidic. If you want to add maybe a teaspoon of sugar or sugar substitute to that, you can. I personally like the acidic flavors. I'm a real vinegary type person. I love to eat that. So I don't add any sugar to mine, but some people do like to add sugar. And then here is the treat. Again, we talked about this in the beginning. You know the no-bake cookies that have the oatmeal and the chocolate and all that? They're delicious. I made a low-carb version of that. Instead of, we just left out the oats because they are full of carbohydrates. We added just some unsweetened, very important that you see it's unsweetened coconut, cocoa peanut butter, some different things in there, and then we just chilled them, and you see how it just firms right up when you pop it in the refrigerator. I would store those in the refrigerator after you're done. If they aren't all gone, I would store the leftovers in the refrigerator. So there you go. Easy, quick, delicious meals from the Everyday Manna kitchen to yours. Thank you for joining with me. Try these recipes and let me know what you think, and I will see you next time on Everyday Manna.